Police here in San Juan are starting to clear the streets now of cars and people. You know, the last time a Category 5 hurricane made landfall here was 90 years ago. Maria's expected to hit tomorrow morning early. Elaine?
Well, David, can you tell us more about what you heard from the governor of Puerto Rico and about his attempts to persuade residents to seek shelter?
He called it what may be the most serious storm of this country's, of this territory's generation, the people here. A lot of the people on the island will tell you, hey, listen, this is island life. We're used to these kinds of storms. But he pleaded with people today saying, but this is a storm unlike anything you have ever seen. He was walking by a house that he pointed out to us, and he said, I don't think that roof will be there after the storm moves through. And I said, well, Governor, do those people know that? And so he stopped, and the people were on the second story deck of that home, and he essentially told them, look, here's how serious it is. You need to go. And they kind of nodded and said, we will. There was another woman who ran up to the governor and said, I'm getting out. I'm so scared. The governor says there are 500 shelters that are available, and they believe they can house up to roughly 150,000 people if need be. Look, the governor is saying that they could suffer 100% power loss here. 100%, the entire island. Wow. And it could be out for days or even weeks.
You know, it's so difficult to imagine, David, but let me ask you, you know, the woman that we saw at the top of your piece, you could see and hear just the anguish that she was feeling. How is it that people in Puerto Rico are reacting at this moment now that you're under this imminent threat from Hurricane Maria?
Look, it's not often that a political figure like the governor, who's the head of this U.S. territory, is going to walk into your driveway and personally look you in the face and say, you got to go. As for how they're getting ready, they're trying to convince people who are stubborn and want to stay at home that it's not a good idea to do so. The governor was flat out honest in saying our electrical grid, our power grid, is exceptionally delicate. That's why he's almost guaranteeing people there will be no power after Maria rolls through. Again, we're not talking about a glancing blow. Irma 2 weeks ago glanced Puerto Rico. 100 miles north is where it passed, and they lost 70% of the power to the island. Maria is expected to make a direct hit. That's why they're telling people you have never seen a storm like this hit this island in your lifetime.
Wow, so alarming. David, I know you traveled to St. Thomas on Monday. Can you describe the devastation that Irma left there and the kinds of conditions people in St. Thomas and other islands could see from yet another hurricane?
Well, first of all, some of the evacuees from the islands are staying here in Puerto Rico. So they evacuated the islands to come here for shelter, and now they're going to ride out another hurricane. What we found was on the island of St. Thomas, a lot of people were staying behind. A lot of people who didn't have much damage during Irma. But as you rode around the island, up and down the mountainous terrain, there were homes that weren't leveled, others that seemed to be untouched. We saw people at the airport who were trying to get on any plane ride out of town. Two in particular who were at the airport who said, I've been trying to get 2 seats on anybody's private plane. And I will share this story without telling you names. There was an elderly couple that rented a private jet. The jet showed up at the airport to take them to Chicago. The elderly couple got on, it was the 2 of them, and there were several empty seats. And I saw the anguish in the face of the lady who ran the private airport operations as she looked at them and said, but can't you just take the 2 people who are right there that are trying to get anybody to give them a ride? And she was told no. It's not because the elderly people didn't want to help. It's because those were the regulations and rules as for the people who rented the aircraft. But that's how dire the situation was. They were asking anyone, as if a car pulled up, hey, can I jump in your back seat or your trunk? I don't know what ended up happening to those 2 people. But that's what people were doing. A lot of people, Elaine, who stayed behind to ride out Irma, said, I'm not doing it again for Maria.
Wow, just desperate conditions. David Begnaud, thank you. Stay safe.
You bet.